All right, everybody, welcome to the Corrective Consciousness Podcast, Episode 2. I am your host, Vise the Bold.
And I am, I guess, co-host or maybe guest.
I'm the only host.
So on the power side, I see how it is.
Tickers are wonderful things, because I'm the only host.
Wow, that was a stretch and a half. Also, I'm Lotus Prince. Didn't even give my name.
Better than Scrotus Prince.
It's a good start.
Hey, you're not a Mad Max character, apparently.
Yeah, what was he called?
Scabrous Scrotus.
Ugh, and it's following up like Rictus or Rectus.
Yeah, they're brothers.
Great.
He had a chainsaw stuck in his head for an entire game. So anyway, I guess we'll just go over what what we've been playing lately. In particular, you came over today and we finished up our 2-year-long play of Silent Hill 3.
Oh boy, it's one of those things where it did not take us anywhere nearly that long to play the game. If you beat the game with like a 10-star ranking, you could beat the game in under 3 hours. The thing was, we would play it, get through maybe a dungeon or so, but we'd usually start when it's getting really late and I'd have to leave, and then I'd come over at different times and we just wouldn't play it that day, and it just kind of went like that.
Yeah.
It's a really short game, and we did start this like a couple of years ago. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So good job. Now you've beaten the first 3 games.
We were doing Let's Plays and other stuff in between, so
that is true. Yeah, the Let's Plays also took long because of conflicting work schedules and things like that, but we made more of a concerted effort to play them. Silent Hill 3, I'd played already, but you had not, so it was just more for leisure, and you were doing other stuff when I wasn't around, because you were doing Silent Hill 3 in particular when I was around, so like I could experience you experiencing the game.
Yeah, and we had done the same thing with the Xbox version of Silent Hill 2, actually. So
oh, that's right, you were playing on the Xbox.
Yeah, we ran through that. The 2 has like extra content in it, right?
Yeah, the deal with Silent Hill 2 is that the original PS2 release is the vanilla form of the game, of course, but the Xbox version has an additional joke ending, which means it has 2 joke endings, and it also has a small mode where you can play as Maria. The PC version had the same thing, and the PS2 eventually got it in the Greatest Hits version. So that's one of the few cases where the Greatest Hits is not just different looking packaging, there's actually different content on the game.
And apparently the Greatest Hits version of the PS2 game has better frame rate than the original Xbox version.
That I had no idea about. I thought that the Xbox was a superior system.
It is. It's just Silent Hill 2 on it was, I think, a launch game. It was very, very, very early.
And
game.
To be fair, I guess it was originally made for the PS2 anyway.
Yeah, but it does have a beautiful PC port that came later, right?
Yeah, that's actually the one I Let's Played way back in the day, because it took me a long time to get a PS2. I got a PS2 a couple of years into the PS3's life, so everything was half price, like nobody cared, but that means it took me forever to get anything PlayStation related, because I never had a PS1. So my first experience with Silent Hill at all was 2, 3, and 4 for the PC.
You didn't play 1, huh?
I played 1 on an emulator in college, but I actually got the game for real later, because it was kind of weird. I could only play 2 and 3, and it was all the more disorienting because 3 is a sequel to 1, so they were making references that I didn't understand. So once I'd played 1 later, and then 3 again later, things made a lot more sense.
It's actually pretty funny. My history with Silent Hill is pretty long, in fact, because I bought the first game back in high school because I knew it was good, and I actually had our friend Pyrojack Frost over and way long ago, and we were playing it like at night, and we decided to start the game, and we were only like 14 or 15 years old at the time, and we were playing it late at night, and we're like, I don't want to play this anymore. Even with our friend in the room, we were freaked out, and back then, they're the graphics weren't so considered so bad that, like back then that was as realistic as it got, like, so we were genuinely freaked out by the game, and it's a really freaky game. I mean, as it is, I mean, there's babies that crawl around the ground and stab your legs, and
the game is kind of scary even now. Like you might think, oh, these graphics, but there's still actual scary stuff going on. And what makes Silent Hill a bit separate from some other games is that a lot of horror games, I think especially modern ones, do a thing where this is where the scary part comes up. Like there'll be a moment or something, and Silent Hill has those. But when monsters come up, you hear the radio going crazy. In Silent Hill 2 and 3, the music starts flipping out. So even just regular dungeon crawling through hallways where there aren't jump scare moments, it still manages to really genuinely be freaky. You can only kind of calm down a little bit if you're sure that a room is cleared. And even then, it's not going to be scary, but it can still be unsettling. Just the general aesthetic. Lots of just gross things all over the walls, or like bodies on gurneys. It's really like, especially when Silent Hill 1 came out, you didn't really see that kind of stuff. There were horror games before, but that one was really pushing what makes you uncomfortable to be moving around.
I do have to say, I think out of the 3 that I've played, the best written one is 2. Just like the story and the symbolism and the way it folds out is the best. But I think the best game is 3, and not just like by gameplay standards, just by kind of just the way it's designed, and the oppressive atmosphere in it is the best out of the 3. The way that the environments are designed, it really is oppressive, and it's gross and disgusting and awful. And I think that the actual game is so much more effective at doing what it does than the other 2, even.
I think I'd actually be inclined to agree. My favorite of the 3 is 2, but 3 probably is a little bit of a better actual game. What kind of gets me, though, is the differences among the hospitals, because 3's goes way over the top with making the walls glowing reddish orange when it's the other world and everything's horrible and the nurses have guns, and it's really, really just pushing the horror. 2, I think its hospital had a more natural horror going on, where it's just really dirty and gross, and the nurses there just show up and they're staggering with the twitchy heads. That still freaks me out today. But 1 did something different that I thought was really entertaining, which is when you first go in the hospital, there's not much to see. You have the whole first floor where there's absolutely nothing going on. And 2 did that as well. And when you went upstairs, the nurses came out. But you could use the elevator and go among your floors and do what you need to do, and there was nothing the entire time. But I forgot exactly what it was at this point, but once you trigger a certain event that allows you to progress the dungeon some more, you go back into the elevator, and there's just a 4th floor button that wasn't there before. And when you go onto it, the 4th floor by itself is the other world, and it's not in your map, and that's just super freaky. It's a little bit of a more subtle scare. Obviously, the floor is scary, but even before you get there, you're just looking at the call buttons on the elevator, and you know this is not good.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. The music was fantastic. I'm glad you showed it to me.
Amazing music.
Yeah.
With lyrics, because 2 didn't go in that direction. 2 had more atmospheric music. 3 also did, but I think there was more of a focus on the music itself as opposed to 2, where it kind of pushed what was happening or where you were. With 3, the songs could actually stand alone, and also they were songs. In 2, they're music tracks that are... There are some that you could listen to by themselves, but when Pyramid Head comes up, it's just a lot of just like almost sound effects, like factory grinding and stuff like that. You would never listen to that just in your car or something. No way. But within the context of the game, it makes a lot more sense. 3 went less on that and more with traditional music. As far as you could call Silent Hill's soundtrack traditional, it still is not what you'd hear on the radio under normal circumstances, but it was still more leaning toward mainstream sounding music, I guess.
I also this makes me want to play more in the series. I know that it starts getting divisive at this point. 1, 2, and 3 are pretty much universally loved by Silent Hill fans, but
yeah, 4 is a little more polarizing. I think it's not universally hated or anything, but that's where people start to get different opinions, and then there's a little more of an inclination to dislike the American versions. And there are reasons to, but I could still find positive attributes of, I mean, really all of them. I don't like them as much as the original Team Silent games, but Origins feels like a Team Silent game, with the exception of the obvious weapon destruction, which I thought was unnecessary. Homecoming has way too much focus on combat. It's over the top, and it confuses gore with horror sometimes. There's just really visceral scenes that aren't necessary, but the story was amazing. Shattered Memories is my least favorite, but the story is among the best in the series. And Downpour might be the weakest of the late releases, but
it's not a bad game though.
Yeah, it's trying to go back to its roots, and there are nods to almost all, or if not all, of its predecessors. So I see what it's doing. I get it. You know, like, good effort. Like,
sure.
It is noticed and appreciated. And then there's Book of Memories, which I don't know. I don't even know if that was a Silent Hill game, like, and then they made it one. That was the rumor about 4 for a while, but apparently that's not true. 4 was originally intended to be a Silent Hill game after all. But Book of Memories, maybe it was, but it didn't have to be. It looked like they wanted to try something new with the Silent Hill game. To be fair, they've done that before. There was a visual novel game for the Game Boy Advance in Japan, and there was a light gun shooter in arcades in Japan and Europe. So you can't really say that Book of Memories is the black sheep for doing something different. They've been doing something different.
And then there's like the iOS game and the flip phone games.
Great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like what people were saying, like, about the Resident Evil 7 demo. People generally liked the demo, but they're concerned. Well, they're concerned. Some are concerned that, oh no, is this the direction Resident Evil's going into? Oh no, with a first person, but there have been the light gun games, Umbrella and Darkside Chronicles, and there have been the Survivor series. Where,
yeah, and they were really good.
I mean, those were also light gun games, but like they were FPSs kind of.
I like the Chronicles games. I
really enjoyed those.
Those are really good, but the other Kavia games, the Survivor games weren't the best.
I've only played the first one.
Yeah.
It's cool.
The last one's the best one.
What was Dead Aim?
Dead Aim, yeah.
One thing I thought was odd about the first one was the first one came out after Resident Evil 2, right? But I think they only had Resident Evil 1 models. I remember for sure there's no female zombies, because I remember Resident Evil 2 really surprised me because there were, and you just kind of don't see that. You still don't see that much today.
Yeah.
And then they just kind of didn't have that for Survivor.
It is kind of funny. Almost all the zombies are male. That's kind of funny.
Well, yeah, it's like you can't kill children in games. Like, you can kill women, but we'd rather not, you know.
Well, there are some countries that have, like,
different censorship laws, I guess.
Have rules against that. In fact, in the original Fallout or Fallout 2... I
think it was 2. Europe didn't have it.
Yeah, there's a specific... they just eliminated children because they didn't want you to be able to kill it, because you could technically kill anything in the game, like any living thing in the game.
Yeah, even today you don't get that.
So what's funny about that is
didn't that like kill some side quests?
Yeah, so because there was this one kid wasn't in the game, you couldn't complete a pretty important side quest. It's not like you couldn't finish the game, but you couldn't do this one side quest that was pretty important.
Yeah, that's obnoxious. Well, it reminds me of I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. For obvious reasons, Germany was not exactly happy about the Nazi in the game.
Oh, yeah.
So they're like, can't have him, and then you basically couldn't beat the game, or at least you couldn't get the good ending because you need all 5 characters for that. So you're basically interfering with the player's ability to complete the game at that point.
Yeah, like, that kind of censorship is always kind of, like, funky. I mean, like, Contra turned into Pro Protector, of course. You know, you have the
that's
cyborgs.
But that's the whole game,
Yeah.
though. Like, this is censorship that they kind of, like, shot first and asked questions later, because it's not like they changed something. They removed something, and I guess they didn't check if that thing was important. And
or
that
if
is
they
important.
cared. Yeah.
Yeah, like, don't you want to not sell copies of your game that your entire audience is going to send backlash at you for because it doesn't work? You know, it's like when this isn't censorship, but it's like when EA went over the top with its DRM for Clive Barker's Undying, and the game was literally unplayable.
Wow.
I think I have this right. I think it was Undying. I might have been something else, but there was some game that was unplayable. So I think they had to put out a patch online or something for it.
Wow.
Like, by the way, this is why piracy exists. Like, I'm not trying to steal. I want to play my damn game. When I buy the game at the store and it doesn't work, you better believe I'm going to download a version that does work. I paid you. I'm playing my game. Yeah.
And having said all that, I also finished Uncharted 4 finally since we last spoke. I know we talked about it.
No spoilers, but oh, that game is so good.
The ending is a lot of fun. I enjoyed it.
They introduced a new gameplay mechanic at the last second.
Yeah, I mean, the Uncharted series actually has a pretty long history of that. In particular, the first game. Yeah, in particular, the first game.
Suddenly you could fire behind you as you're running away from something.
Yeah. Like, suddenly a new mechanic at the very end of the game.
I don't know if 2 or 3 did that, but 4 was kind of cool to see that make a comeback.
One thing that I thought was actually pretty cool about 4 is there's actually no supernatural elements.
Actually, that's a good point.
There's
because 1 through 3, 1 obviously,
yeah.
2 obviously,
yeah.
3 heavily hinted at it, especially with Talbot. 4,
there isn't any at all.
Yeah, I didn't think about that at all for 4. There's just nothing.
Yeah, there are no supernatural elements. Actually, this is one of the most grounded video game stories that I've ever seen in a game. It actually portrays relationships very realistically.
Mm-hmm.
Interpersonal conflicts, and also has a really great fitting end to the Uncharted series, at least as it is now.
Yeah, and by the way, speaking of interpersonal conflicts, I don't want to go too far into this one for potential spoilers, but so I'll try to keep this vague. But there are lots and lots of cases where somebody on your team, like, with every Uncharted game, you know, it's all about getting that super treasure, right?
Yeah.
And of course, there are betrayals, there are alliances, there are re-alliances after betrayals, and there's all sorts of twists and turns. But one thing I liked about 4, I don't know if 1 through 3 was really guilty of this, but 4 particularly avoided it. Was like someone. Like, what I'm trying to say is they didn't write characters, they wrote people. Like,
yeah.
Because, like, there's always that case in, like, every action movie ever, for example, where one of the people in your party who you trusted at the very end suddenly just gets the fever. You know, I gotta have that treasure, whatever the treasure is. And all of a sudden...
Apu wants to suddenly grab the ruby in the Cave of Wonders.
But I mean, not even that. I mean, to the point where, you know, you've gotten far, but you know what? This isn't worth it. It's so easy to die. It's so easy to die. But all of a sudden, the person who kind of had more of a taste for this than you did, all of a sudden pulls a gun on you, like, no, we're going back. Like, they almost had a scene like that in Uncharted 4, but based on who the characters were that were in that conversation, it didn't go that way, and I'm really happy that it didn't, because it would have honestly been an out-of-character moment for that particular person. I'm being really vague here, but if you've played the game, I think you know what I mean.
I also was pleasantly surprised because at the beginning of the game, I felt like a little bored. A little bit. I was getting to the point where I was like, this game's not doing much new at the beginning. Which I guess, you know, at the beginning you just are feeling out the mechanics, but I've played 3 of these games before, so
yeah, that is the thing. Like, it always did weird me out when they give you a whole tutorial for how to play. I mean, these games never came with an instruction manual, so I could see them reminding you, but a whole deal on, well, if you've never played an Uncharted game before, and it's like, this is the 4th damn game, And I know that it's PS3 versus PS4, but the original trilogy is also on PS4 now.
Yeah, but I was pleasantly surprised. Actually, the story is what kept me going, and usually story in video games is pretty garbage. I mean, like, story can be have good themes and things like that in video games.
And they can give you excuses to keep moving forward.
Exactly, but like Silent Hill has good story, for instance, but this. There aren't many games that have good story. They're kind of just like the backdrop for what you're doing, and
yeah, like every Tales of game, like they're not bad stories, but they're all the same. You know,
yeah.
There was a second world, and someone wants to conquer both of them, and he's a jerk, and we have to learn the power of friendship and stop xenophobia because we shouldn't be hating the people from the other world. Like, the games are good, and the stories are more varied than that, but they're all that.
I mean, even some of my favorite games have great characters, but not great story. And you're there for the characters. You're there for what.
Case in point, Duke Nukem.
Well, yeah,
I don't know if he's a great character, but like, yeah,
it's a terrible story.
He's a fun character.
He's just like, okay, I'm gonna go kill some stuff. Like, you know,
but his personality kind of keeps you awake.
Exactly, and you know, even like a lot of Suda51 games are kind of like that. They're like they have disjointed and really strange stories.
Yeah, Killer is Dead story makes no goddamn sense.
Sense.
But every single person you meet, you're like, I want to see more of that guy.
Yeah, like you play it because each boss is really fun, and
yeah, that's every Suda51 game. Like, what's the boss going to be like?
And they all have their very unique personalities. Like, they're not hackneyed. There's something new, something creative.
Yeah, like in No More Heroes 1, the gameplay mechanics, I think, were designed to actively troll the player. Like, the game is designed to kind of suck as far as playing it goes. But, like, I gotta have that boss.
In Killer is Dead, in particular, I really like the guy with the headphones and the train.
He was both of those levels and bosses were amazing.
Yeah.
Also, bonus points for it literally being Thomas the Tank Engine.
Yeah, he's like an evil Thomas the Tank Engine.
I don't know if he's a tank engine, but he's a giant train called Thomas. Like,
we know what you're referencing, man.
This is not a subtle reference that I'll be lucky to pick up on. You know, it's a train called Thomas. Get out of here.
He doesn't tend to be subtle, that's for sure. But that's why I love Suda51 games. I don't love them particularly for the story. I love them for the characters. Like even Shadows of the Dam had awesome characters. I mean, come on, like they're so much fun.
Garcia Hotspur.
Yeah, I mean, like they're so good, but like in terms of actual like motivations and symbolism and things like that,
probably the most advanced it gets in that regard is probably going to be Killer 7.
Yeah.
There are actual readings you can do outside of the context of the game itself.
I would agree with that.
Oh my god.
I would agree with that, and even there are some games in which you can do that with, but I don't think that's where the showcase is, right?
Destiny, where you have to go to the website to see what the hell it is you're even doing and why.
Yeah, and he's literally my favorite, like probably my favorite video game designer that's still active, and I love this stuff, but I recognize that motivations and things like that aren't complicated. So, but I really like that type of stuff. But you know, Uncharted 4 has like one of the best written stories of a game that I've ever played. It was excellent. I'm not sure whether I'm going to particularly say that I liked it better than 2, but
it's a tough call for me, honestly.
Yeah, it is a tough call. I'm going to abstain from picking.
2 had what I did find interesting though is, despite what you're saying about story, like those characters were really believable. And the thing with 2 is the villain of 2 was an evil warlord, and he's evil. You know, he's evil.
Yeah.
In 4, the bad guy is very obviously the bad guy, but he's a freaking human being.
He's more just a douchebag.
Yeah, he's more of a douchebag with power, and like he's like, you want to see me get crazy? Because I can do that. But he's not like clapping his hands.
He's not a homicidal maniac.
Yeah, he's not mwahaha crazy. It's like, I'll kill you if I have to, you know? And like, if you ever, like, one of the people who's with him, the game actually explains where the giant army comes from, which I thought was amusing. It's mercenaries for hire,
and it also at the end of the game, with 2, there was a really nice moment at the end of the game where he was just like, "Dude, you just killed like hundreds of guys.
Yeah.
It's like, oh crap, man, maybe I should. Like I've been playing this game and I'm considered the good guy, but I have been killing hundreds of guys.
Yeah.
But the fourth game does also comment on that. It's just like, dude, you killed a lot of my men in here.
But what was interesting about
dead.
what was interesting about 4 though was that it didn't retread that ground because you weren't there for that.
Yeah.
It was like the head of the army, the mercenary army that the bad guy hired. That person wanted to go home. Like she was like,
all my men are dead.
Like, I don't have a damn army. Like we are a mercenary army. We get paid because people want us to be an army for them. The army's freaking gone. There's like 10 of us now.
Yeah.
And there was a whole game's worth before. I want out. But what was amusing, though, was that person is a badass mercenary, army leader, and even though the bad guy of the game is the bad guy of the game, the head of the army still keeps him in line. Like, he's not about to mess with this person who's trained to be a killer. This is a jerk with a gun who's a pretty alright shot, but like, come on, dude, head of a mercenary army? Like, you really want to pick that fight? And he knows not to. He knows when to be kept in line.
I also might add that, like, love in video games is never really treated well. Like, it's mostly about lust. It's just like, I'm going to go after that girl because she's pretty, and I'm going to save her because she's the princess or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And women are typically treated as like objects in that sense in video games. It's gotten better in recent years, but there's still never been a realistic love component. And this game,
this one, you're already married. It's like your interaction with your wife.
Yeah, and she's a great character in the game, like as she was in the previous games.
She was in, yeah.
Yeah, but she in this one you could really feel the bond between the two characters.
Yeah.
And also like brotherly love, obviously, in the game, and in fact, there's a lot of just really cool family moments.
There's a bunch, and what's cool is that they're also handled differently.
Yes,
like Nathan definitely has a different relationship with his wife than he does with
Sully,
his brother, and with Sully. Yeah, like they're all a little bit different, and even with the jerk in the game, because they all kind of start out in the beginning of the game, it's more of a okay, I guess I'll deal with this guy, even though we've known for each other for a while, but he's kind of like the loose cannon of the group relationship. It really is interesting. It's not just like, here's how you treat family and here's how you don't. Like, they are different people.
And the game is about like in a lot of ways about the betrayal of trust between
a whole lot of that going on.
Yeah, and in different ways it can be handled depending on what your relationship is with people. I mean, it's really interesting, and I don't think I've ever played a game that really plays with that or does it well or treats it well. And this game did.
I cannot imagine how long it must have taken to write and even act this game out. Like, you have to do this just right.
The dialogue and the scripting was extremely important in this game, and dialogue and scripting are usually an afterthought in most games. So I think.
Well, and then sometimes they're parodies of themselves on purpose, because like we know what we're doing. It's stupid gun fun, just be crazy. Like in the new Doom, for example, you're just like, I want to kill stuff. And you get those personality traits based on the character's actions rather than words. Because do you talk at all in that game?
In what?
Doom, new Doom?
No. He just gives thumbs ups and okay.
So it's like hardcore Henry.
Yeah. At one point, it's actually pretty funny. There's an Easter egg. Like if you're in the Foundry level, you fall into like the molten metal. You actually give the thumbs up like in Terminator 2.
It's so dumb.
Yeah.
But no, what I mean is though, like you could get personality traits from. Like, the personality traits are written almost as afterthoughts, and sometimes, like I said, even as parodies of what would normally constitute writing in a game. Because the way, like, Doom's always been a fast-paced first-person shooter. And then Doom 3 happened, and I actually like Doom 3, but it's a very different game. Like, it's a good game, it's just not a good Doom game. And there's a lot of audio logs you have to listen to get passwords for stuff. The new Doom opens up with you waking up from cryostasis, and you get one of those logs immediately. And it's like, greetings, soldier, you have a mission to do, and like you just immediately like just knock the computer screen to the side and just go. It's hysterical.
One of my favorite moments in that game is actually like when you're told to shut down these these generators, and you just instead of just shutting them down, you just fuck them up.
Yeah.
you wreck them. You just like stomp them and rip them apart. And it's just like, well, you didn't need to do that. It's like, nope, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah, I do love when you go unnecessarily video game on something. Like even in Duke Nukem 3D, every end level is the end of every level is a switch. In Doom, you press the switch, like in old Doom. In Duke Nukem, though, there's always a shot of you taking your fist and just pounding the switch, and it like breaks. You didn't have to do that. It just cracks me up.
Well, in Doom, there's actually a good reason for the Doom Slayer to do that.
No, I just mean old Doom, where you're pressing a switch and you're getting out, like you're doing it normally.
Yeah.
And Duke Nukem, no, you're bam, switch is gone.
In Doom 16, he's destroying it because he doesn't think that any of the humans should have any access to any of the hell energy.
Yeah, for the machines.
For the hell energy. So he's destroying it so this doesn't keep happening. Because it's
how many times have you dealt with Hellspawn and literally gone to hell? Haven't you idiots learned yet? Like, don't mess with the underworld.
The game implies that probably at least Doom 1 and 2 are in its continuity. It references lots of years of humanity dealing with demonic invasions.
Yeah, I don't know if Final Doom counts, but Doom 3 is Doom 1, and Doom 2 is when hell came to Earth.
Yeah, well, my point is, like, even, like, the PA system, like, the computer is analyzing is, like, demonic invasion imminent. Like, you programmed it to detect these things.
The computers don't just say things. Like, someone put in the code, if there's ever a demonic invasion, this is going to come up.
And in the game, through the logs, this isn't a spoiler, because, come on, all of the cyber demons and things like that, all of the ones that have like cybernetic implants are actually humans experimenting on them. So
that's interesting, because in old Doom it was just straight up hell mechanizing itself. Like hell was like, what if we use technology? It's like, oh no.
Well, in this it was like humans have been capturing them and experimenting on the demons.
No, I could still buy that. Yeah. It's just a different interpretation.
Yeah.
Also, that's totally something that like people in the Doom universe would do. It's totally something they would do.
Oh, no.
I think humans had some of the experimental creatures in the
humans cases. Are not trustworthy. Well,
they're also not smart. Like, if you found an entrance to hell, would you really try tapping that resource?
No, I would leave.
You want to piss off the devil himself?
I would not activate it, and I would leave.
That's the thing. Like, remember, the devil. Like, do you really want that guy going, hey, don't touch my stuff? It's terrible.
There's a couple of Easter eggs I actually wanted to mention to you. I don't know whether I told you this or not, Lotus, but there's actually if you go to a really hard to find area, you can find a head on a pike.
Like John Romero?
No. Nothing that on the nose, but this is definitely in the wheelhouse of Doom games. But on one of the skulls is on a pike, and the skull is wearing a yellow football helmet. It's Commander Keen's
Commander
football.
Keen, hey!
His head is on a pike right there.
From Doom 2 to Doom 2016.
Yeah. And there's also another really cool one that I didn't find out until I watched a video. So I did tell you that there is like the dead corpse of the Icon of Sin.
That's a really cool nod. So that does mean that Doom 2 definitely happened.
That in itself is not an Easter egg or a spoiler or anything. It's just cool that it's there.
Yeah.
So it just shows that Doom 2 is in its continuity.
Warning: Doom 2 is canon.
Yeah. What's really neat about it is if you have your rocket launcher equipped and shoot it in its weak point, just like in Doom 2.
Does it still go like... Urgh?
No, it launches out a Doom Guy collectible, which is kind of neat.
Oh wait, this is probably pushing it too hard. But does it make that sound when it?
Oh, I have no idea. I have no idea.
Okay,
but
because that's what the sound it made when it shot out the cubes that spawn monsters when you fight it.
Yeah, all I know is that you can launch a rocket into its weak point.
That's really funny.
And it does give you a collectible for doing so.
That's a cool nod.
So like you would have only found that if you were screwing around and were like, hey, I wonder what happens if I do what you would do in Doom 2.
That's pretty funny. I like stuff like that.
And that's the only way you can damage it, right? Rockets in Doom 2?
I think other ammo works, but it'll take more. Because I think I was able to get the plasma rifle to work, but you do kind of have to spray to make that make sense. Whereas with rockets, just get the timing right, and it takes 2 rockets.
Gotcha. So that's pretty much what people would have done with it if they played it, you know.
Yeah.
And you're killing John Romero's head.
To beat the game, you must kill me, John Romero. For those of you who don't know, when you enter the level, you hear this weird hell speak, and you don't know what it means, and it's just that backwards with a demonic voice.
Me, John Romero.
Yeah. And if you use the clipping code to go into the Icon of Sin's head, then, like Vice just said, you see John Romero's head on a spike, and when you shoot it, you see it like flinch in pain, like, oh, and it still makes the crazy demon sound, implying that John Romero, I guess, is the Icon of Sin. Why not?
Yeah, he was really into.
Looks like you made John Romero your bitch this time. This is for Daikatana.
Well, what's really funny is like Ion Storm ended up making some really good games. Like they made Deus Ex, and
yeah, it is ridiculous how much I love the original Deus Ex.
There's one other game that Ion Storm is known
Thief?
for. Yeah. Let me.
Oh no! It might not have been Thief. I was thinking Deus Ex and Thief might be associated with each other, but it's Thief and System Shock 2. They had like the similar engines, I think.
Yeah, I believe
like, I remember before Steam and GOG happened. Thief and System Shock 2 were really hard to get running. I remember I had to download some weird stuff to get System Shock 2 to play on my my Windows 7 PC.
Yeah, so I believe.
Oh, Anachronox.
Yeah,
I haven't played that, but I've heard it's great.
Thief Deadly Shadows, Deus Ex, Invisible War, and...
Oh, yeah, Invisible War.
Dominion is supposed to be a good... I think that's supposed to be a good FPS game.
You know, to this day, I still haven't...
Or RTS game, I'm sorry, RTS, yes.
To this day, I still haven't played more than maybe 20 to 30 minutes of Deus Ex Invisible War, because I've kind of wanted to Let's Play it, but... I'll need to see what happens on the Xbox version of the game. But on PC, even on GOG, it's so annoying. Anytime, and all the Deus Ex games do this. Every time you leave an area and enter a new one, you get a loading screen. But in Invisible War, like your monitor refreshes. It's such a pain in the ass. So it just kills whatever recording I was doing. So I can still do it, but I'll have to keep restarting the recording and resyncing everything, and it's like, I can do it, but it's such a pain. So I would imagine that the Xbox version wouldn't refresh your TV, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that game, and I don't know. From what I understand, that game's not even worth playing, so...
Yeah, I hear it's the weakest of the games. It might be worth playing, I don't know. The only thing I know is that like, which ending in the original Deus Ex counted? What was the real ending, right?
I think it was a combination of...
That's exactly it. And Mankind Divided is doing the same thing. It's not like which Human Revolution ending counted, because doing that in a sequel would imply that there's a right way to go, which, even though the game's been out for years, you already had your own decisions to make, it still kind of takes a little bit of that away from you in retrospect. So they make it a combination of all of them, so... you can still choose whatever you want to be satisfied. I kind of like that.
I wish EA would have grown a pair about Mass Effect and kind of just did whatever they thought would be good, like so that they can continue the Shepard storyline if they wanted to. You just pick an ending that wasn't even a choice. Make a new one.
That's the thing. I know it is asking too much to have the ending depend on all of your decisions because there are so many combinations. But yeah, like even...
just recap in the fourth game, say, hey, this is what actually happened.
Yeah, like I'm aware that in a game that's all about choice, choosing an ending makes sense, but your choices don't matter regarding choosing an ending, so you might as well just have an ending.
Yeah.
Because especially, I know that DLC took care of this, but in its original form, all the endings were basically the same anyway, so it's like, again, one ending. Just give me one really cool ending.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, that's why I kind of like this. With a game like Star Control, I don't know if I ever told you this, but so you play Star Control 2 and you find out what happened at the end of Star Control 1. So the end. Star Control 2 begins with you, like, humans losing in Star Control 1.
Warcraft 2 did that.
Yeah.
The orcs won in Warcraft 1. Like,
yeah.
What a twist.
Yeah, like, even if you won when you were playing it, no, you're wrong. Like, you're supposed to lose.
That actually really is... It's really cool that happens, because
Yeah.
you're just like, number one, you don't expect it, but number two, it provides a very different game from what you thought you would have played.
Well, you're still behind the 8 ball, is what it comes down to. I mean, you want to have conflict in your game. You want to have a bad guy in your game.
Well, no, but I mean, like, as opposed to you win and here comes a new threat. It's
Yeah.
like, no, you lost. Do something about it. Like, that's really clever.
Well, in Star Control 2, actually things are even worse than at the beginning of Star Control 1 because
That sucks.
Because Star Control 2, the Earth has been enslaved. Like, that's the beginning of the game. That's not a spoiler. The Earth is enslaved. You can't get to Earth.
Star Control 1 spoilers.
What ends up happening is the beginning of the game is you were off colonizing. Your ship was off colonizing. It was doing its thing by exploring. It was doing the Star Trek thing.
Oh, so you just happened to miss getting wrecked?
Yes,
like you
exactly.
That's
were
the
gone.
reason you're alive. You were
gone
home that day.
Yeah, exactly. You were gone.
That's nuts.
And what ended up happening was you crash landed, or you couldn't get off, and you found like this alien factory, and the alien factory only had enough parts to make you like a portion of a new ship.
Oh my god.
So like you're a very underpowered new ship to get back home.
Sure.
And so you take all the people that you can and go back to Earth. And Earth has already been taken over by the worst bad guys in the galaxy. They're just awful. They're big giant evil caterpillars that hate you.
That sucks.
Yeah.
But that actually reminds me of classic Doom again, because in the original Doom, you're on a base on Phobos, one of Mars's moons, and literally hell breaks loose, and you deal with that, and you seal the portal, and then you go through the rest of Doom 1, and you're like, oh man, dealt with that hell threat. Thank God that's over. And then you go back to Earth, and Earth's already taken over. So like, even though you were in Doom 1, you still missed everywhere else getting wrecked. Like, so you have to go back and deal with that now. Like, remember Phobos? Deal with that, only it's all of Earth.
Half-Life's kind of like that too. Even though you get out of Black Mesa and you defeat the bad guy, you come back and after G-Man like lets you come back.
And you're in City 17. Everything's already been taken over by aliens.
Yeah, everything's been gone to shit.
And isn't it like not even the same aliens? Like
no, they're different
they're
aliens.
Not the Zen. So isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
You go and deal with the Zen problem, but that's okay. While you weren't looking, just it basically happened anyway. It was just somebody else.
The Combine, yeah.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
There are also big shitty caterpillar things that hate you for no good reason. They just hate you. But in
throw this can in the trash. You throw it in, jerk.
Your first major mission in Star Control 2 is that you meet up with a space station that is orbiting Earth. Mm-hmm. You can't go to Earth because it's shielded and it's taken over. And the space station has like a hailing frequency. Essentially, the space station was there to guard Earth, and it all has all these subservient humans on it that are like loyal to the caterpillars.
Oh wow, it sucks.
But what ended up they're called the Urkons. So what's neat about it, this is basically, by the way, this game is basically the inspiration for Mass Effect in a lot of ways, except the gameplay, instead of being like Gears of War, which is what Mass Effect ended up turning into, it's kind of like a Gears of War mixed with Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, and a little bit of Baldur's Gate, I guess, if you a little bit.
Baldur's Gate takes you back, man.
But anyway, but yeah, instead of that, the gameplay is much more like Asteroids or Space War.
Huh.
You are a ship and you're flying around on an overhead thing, and you're zooming around and trying to battle another ship. That's what the combat is. But the way that you talk to other characters and things like that is very reminiscent of like the diplomacy and kinds of things that you would want to do in Mass Effect or even like a Fallout game, which is pretty neat. Like you're meeting new races all the time, and you're trying to befriend them so you can fight the bad races, things like that. And so you go and you talk to the hailing frequency, and you find out that everybody on that ship is starving and they're running out of energy because the Urkons forgot about them. They were supposed to guard Earth for like 3 years. And then wait for a resupply from the Urkons, and they forgot about them, and they're on year 5, and
that's ridiculous.
They're rationing everything, and they're basically about to die. And so what you have to do is you have to go get them supplies. And if you get them supplies, you can actually talk them into siding with you and be like, well, you know what, we're subservient because we have to be, because they're a bunch of assholes. But like, we'll side with you. I don't even care. Like, just give us the supplies, or we're gonna die. So it's a really cool, and then you do it, and then Urkons show up, and they're like, "Get the hell out of here!" Like you better leave. You better you better surrender, or we're going to kill you. So you have to fight them.
Nice.
So it's really neat, but your ship is so underpowered that like it's a very difficult fight. So it was a really neat thing, and anybody who's interested in that. It's still a great game to play now. I would still recommend playing it. It's not like too aged where it's not fun. It's a fun game. There is a really good fan remake of Star Control 2. You could buy official versions of it on GOG.
It is on GOG. Nice.
Yeah, 1, 2, and 3 are on GOG. Star Control 3 was made by a different company, so everybody ignores it. But the fan remake actually has a whole bunch of the improvements from the 3DO version of the game, which is considered to be the best version.
3DO, you said?
The 3DO version was the best because it was made after the original PC version.
Okay.
So
they figured out what worked.
What the fans did was they made this game called the Urkon Masters, which is essentially what it is it's a combination of the PC version and the 3DO version. You can pick features.
Oh, that's cool. I like that.
Like whether you want the 3DO version of the features or whether you want the PC version of the features. In a lot of ways, the 3DO version is much more advanced. It has animation on a lot of the still images are not still images anymore. They're animated.
That's cool.
I believe the voices were added for the 3DO, and the voice acting is actually very, very, very good.
Nice.
Especially for the era.
Yeah.
The
PS1 3DO era was like, that was a very mixed bag of voice acting.
Most of it's terrible.
Yeah.
There are very few actual
Resident
good
Evil
ones.
1 is pretty good.
I'm even trying to think of good voice acting from that era, and nothing immediately comes to mind. It's just
that is a little tougher. That is kind of tough. I'm starting to think PS2 stuff. That's getting a little late.
Yeah, no. I'm talking PS1 era.
Yeah.
There are a few good games. Don't get me wrong. I'm not putting down everything, but that one in particular is very good, unusually good. Mm-hmm. So I definitely recommend that. I'm gonna pick a new game to play now, and I uncharacteristically finished a bunch of games. Yeah. You know as well as I do that I have this long list of games that I constantly am adding to.
Deus Ex.
Well, I'm still playing P3P, Persona 3 Portable, and I lost the save for my Deus Ex go through. So
well, whatever. You said you had to restart anyway.
Yeah, so I think I'm actually gonna play the remake. What is it?
Oh, HD Revision, I believe?
Yeah, I'm going to play the revision.
The level design is very different, but the plot should be the same.
I'm going to play that instead this time around, just because it was fun.
Yeah, it's pretty rad.
So what are you playing these days on your own?
Well, I'm very different from you in this regard. I play one game at a time until I'm done with it.
Yeah.
So the last podcast I mentioned I was playing One Piece Pirate Warriors 3. There's no exception to this. Basically, if I'm going to be playing different stuff, it's going to be... If I'm playing stuff aside from what I'm currently playing for fun, it's going to be what I'm Let's Playing. So, implying that Let's Playing is not fun, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So, as I said last time, the last thing I had finished recording and editing and everything was Danganronpa. I actually have another Let's Play fully recorded that I need to edit, but can put up. So I actually don't really have to play anything for recording purposes at the moment, but I kind of want to. But it's coming down to a matter of what should I play, because there's a lot. I mentioned this to you before we started recording this podcast that we're doing right now, but I played Dino Crisis 1 a while back. I should get on Dino Crisis 2.
Yeah,
I played
I should
Clock
play
Tower
that.
a while back. I should get on Clock Tower 2. I played Resident Evil 1 through 3. I should get on the next Resident Evil game. I played Parasite Eve 1, I think 2 years ago. I should get on Parasite Eve 2. There are light gun games I want to play. There are series I want to start. I want to do Valkyria Chronicle. It's oh my god, what do I do?
One thing that we are similar in that is I don't like playing games out of order in general. I
will play the crappy games in the middle of a series before I get back to the ones that are considered good.
Yeah, I mean, I will force myself generally to do that too. But uncharacteristically, back when in the PlayStation 1 era, I actually was not a big fan of the Resident Evil style games. I had a hard time with the tank controls. Now it's like second nature. You just kind of have to force yourself to do it until you get used to it, and then you're blazing.
Actually, you know what that reminds me of? I don't remember, we talked about this, you just beat Silent Hill 3. I actually forgot if the PS2 version allows this. But on the PC, you can choose whether or not you want to deal with the tank controls.
Yeah.
PS2 might. But the funny thing is, I had been playing the previous Silent Hill games. I'm used to the Resident Evil games. I actually actively kept the tank controls.
Yeah.
And when I got to Silent
Hill... Because it feels weird if you don't have them if you're used to it.
Yeah, well, when I got to Silent Hill 4, where it's press right to go right. I was like, what? That's weird. It actually took me a little while to get used to it.
It's pretty funny because, a lot of games that have evolved over the time will say, here's the classic one. If you're playing this for the first time, you're going to want to use this.
Well, actually, the Resident Evil remaster did that. You can actually choose which control scheme you want, which I think is really cool.
They did that with the new Monster Hunter generations. Oh. It says if you've never played a Monster Hunter game, you should try the new control scheme because it's much better.
That's actually cool. Actually, this reminds me, a while back at this point, but our friend Mr. Ryu45 had played Overblood with me on the PS1, and it was kind of funny because, most of the time with co-op Let's Plays, maybe even all the time we've done it. If it's stuff like Golden Axe, we can play simultaneously, we do that. But I sat back and I watched you play Snatcher and Police Knots, right? During Danganronpa, Pyro Jack Frost sat back and watched me play it. So Overblood, Mr. U45 sat back and watched me play it. So he's not really appreciating the controls. So there's this one part where you get this wonky camera angle where you're looking forward and it's kind of like a diagonal angle, and there's this rounded beam you have to cross, and Mr. Ryu was just like, good luck with that, but...
You did fine, I'm sure.
Yeah, your character starts at the beginning of the platform, so I was like, okay, so I pressed up, and you just cross it. That's when tank controls really come in handy, actually. All you need to do is go forward, alright, then you can close your eyes and do it. It's not like, Uncharted, where you have to kind of, be very finicky with the stick, otherwise you can waggle one way or another. It's up is forward. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, I mean, I love that in some respects.
And by the way, for the record, Uncharted does that on purpose. It's kind of like a whoa, you're appreciating the character's balance, but there wasn't Overblood wasn't doing that. It's just like, just cross the damn beam. So I did.
Well, back in the day, I had read a review of Dino Crisis 2, and it is a completely different game in style from Dino Crisis 1.
Yeah, I played a couple minutes. It's almost... It looks like a bonus game. Like, it looks like a bonus round of a level, but that's the game.
It's an action-oriented, like, combo, like, weapon-based game. It is not a resource management game
you kill dinosaurs for points, and then at the end you go to a machine and you buy ammo and guns. It's like, what?
Ammo is not scarce.
And if it is, you buy some more.
And so I think they really wanted to differentiate what Dino Crisis was versus Resident Evil at the time, because they were too similar.
Yeah, Dino Crisis really was Resident Evil,
but with dinosaurs.
Although, extra twist, unlike Resident Evil, with the exception of scripted events, dinosaurs can follow you through rooms.
No, they're smart.
I mean, you have to go off camera. You can't see them come in. But when you change camera angles, you'll hear the sound of a door opening, and then there's just a dinosaur in the room. And it's like, you must be kidding me. And I'm sure that's a Jurassic Park reference, but like, man, that sucks. Like, you think you're... And by the way, dinosaurs suck to kill on Dino Crisis 1.
Oh, yeah.
They are ammo sponges, and they kick your ass. So, like, at least when you leave the room, you're safe, like in every Resident Evil game. Nope. It's terrible.
So, I guess what I wanted to get at was Dino Crisis is actually the game, the odd man out. I actually haven't beaten the original Dino Crisis, and out of all of the classic Resident Evil games, it's the and their spin-offs and things like that. I've beaten all the main Resident Evil games except for 6 at this point. So
you got 0?
I've beaten 0.
Nice.
Yeah. I've beaten all Code Veronica. I haven't done Revelations 1 and 2 yet.
Code Veronica is brutal.
But Code Veronica was actually the first one I ever beat.
Oh my god! So you must have played Resident Evil like 2 and been like, this is so easy.
Well, it's actually pretty funny because after you beat that one, all of the rest of them seem like a cakewalk, I guess. Because,
Code Veronica is brutal. Like for perspective,
it was also the last. It was the last tank control game.
Yeah, the last
right?
regular quote Resident Evil game.
Well, no, 0 was, I guess.
Yeah, no, you're right. It was.
Yeah.
But with Code Veronica, though, like, to put things into perspective, normally to get the rocket launcher, the super unlock, you have to beat the game in under 3 hours. In Resident Evil 1, it's just that's it. In Resident Evil 2, there are other little caveats like don't heal too much and stuff, but the time is the main factor to consider. In Code Veronica, I think the time you have to beat is like 5 hours.
Yeah. So I have to go back and I love Dino Crisis 2, and anybody should play it. It's a lot of fun. It doesn't get talked about enough, but it definitely shows that Capcom wanted to go in a more action-oriented route, and you could see where Resident Evil 4 came from, actually, in playing it.
Yeah, not that Dino Crisis 2 was over the shoulder or anything, but Resident Evil 4 was a lot more kill stuff, get pickups.
Yeah, and I love that game, and nobody ever talks about the Dino Crisis games at all. I mean,
I was actually just going to say that. Like, Dino Crisis in general is overlooked.
Yeah, I want to go back and play 1 because it's another Resident Evil game that I want to play,
And what's cool about it, by the way, is that with Resident Evil games, there are multiple endings, but in 2, you do have different final bosses, but that's based on which character you're playing as. In 3, it's the same final boss no matter what, and what you do about it. Like, there's one main ending, but there's slight little tweaks to how your characters react, but the ending is the same.
Mm-hmm.
With 1, there are 4 endings, but it's basically, do you fight the real final boss or not? In Dino Crisis, there are a few different endings, but you could have a different character live, or you could somehow manage to save both characters, and even the way the final boss is handled is done in 3 different ways. It's like it's a different final encounter each time, which is really cool.
I really want to play Dino Crisis 3 with you in particular because
that would be hilarious.
Because apparently
remember that time there weren't dinosaurs?
It's a batshit insane game that barely anybody's played because number one, it's on
the Xbox.
It's exclusively on the original Xbox, It never got ported to anything, and nobody cared at the time to play it. So that's obviously why it's the last Dino Crisis game.
Mhm.
But it also is really weird even compared to its predecessors. Apparently it has nothing to do with Dino Crisis 1 and 2. Like, none of the same characters really cross
Yeah, it's
over.
like in name only, I guess.
It's dinosaurs in space, but the dinosaurs really aren't dinosaurs.
Yeah, they're weird, like, well, I mean, you know what it's like? It's like the Doom movie,
Yeah.
where the demons were mutated humans, and it's like, Doom was never big on story, but you have one job: kill demons, and it's like they're not demons. What?
Well, in Doom 16, like some of the demons are actually like demonized humans, but
I mean,
they're,
okay,
they're
but in
not
general, you're
mutated.
going to hell and fighting demons.
They're not mutated demons.
Yeah, they're not
humans.
straight up humans.
No,
like,
no.
Get out of here. What I'm also interested in, by the way, is a game I know even less about than Dino Crisis 3, because you just told me, or like on this podcast right now, what I know about Dino Crisis 3. You know, it's in space, and there are weird not dinosaurs that you're fighting. But like,
and you know how better horror gets when it goes into space. You know, like Leprechaun and
yeah, I mean,
and Friday the 13th went into space.
Yeah, if you want horror done right, don't go to space. Start in space.